I'm going to talk to you about some of the improvements and also the challenges that we've faced over the past year or so on our vessels. I'll look at some of the recent initiatives across the fleet, and then we'll look at the Stena Space-specific stuff, because that's the only rig we have in the North Sea at the moment. I was provided with information from the offshore administrator, but she couldn't manage today, so I'm going to present on her behalf. Okay, so this just shows an overview of our worldwide operations as it stands at the moment. We have 2 drill ships working out of the Gulf of Mexico, 2 working out of Africa, and then we have semi-submersibles in Norwegian, Australian, and UK waters. So just a little bit of background information. The Stena Spey was the first of our rigs to get ISO 14001 certification back in 2007. Since then, there's been a continual increase in the fleet, and we now have 6 out of our 7 vessels certified, and the next one we're looking to get certified in 2015. Each vessel, although under the same certificate, manage their own environmental improvements on board themselves, with onshore assistance when they need it. And this is because the fleet is quite varied. We have different vessels with different number of personnel on board, different sizes of vessels, from the drill ships to the semi-subs. And we also have a difference in operations being carried out on board, and also the types of equipment and chemicals that we have there. Client expectations can also differ from company to company, and again, also from location to location. So it can be quite hard to put improvements in place that stay embedded for a long time on the vessels. Each vessel has their own green team, made up of heads of departments as well as volunteers. They meet quarterly to discuss any new improvements, discuss the objectives they already have in place. So it's kind of like the EREP system, but it's maybe not as formal as you guys have it on the platforms. We are looking at developing a sort of green team member job description, which was something that was just discussed at the last forum, and trying to increase their level of involvement. So some of the recent fleet initiatives. On our Stena Karen, whilst it was working in the UK back in 2012, they began a hydraulic hose change-out programme. Now this was quite a big task because there's around 2,500 hoses on board, and every single one of these had to be rated. So normally the procedure would be that you check the hose before you use it, if there's any damage, change it out. And obviously if there's a failure, you change it out straight away. What they did here was they looked at all the hoses on board and rated them high, medium or low risk, depending on their potential for environmental damage if there was a failure. So things like how close they are to the moon pool, or if they're actually overside. And then they developed change-out plans for each of these risk levels. Now, I just received the current completion figures yesterday, so I didn't manage to put them on the slide, but at the moment they have changed out 100% of all their high-risk hoses, 84% of the medium risk, and 94% of the low risk. So we're looking at 95% overall in just under 2 years. This is one of the initiatives that we're looking at putting across the fleet for the other drill ships, which would be pretty much the same system if we changed it across. Okay, plastic waste, as we know, is a serious marine issue. We've talked about it already this morning. Although all the plastic from our vessels goes onshore, either for treatment, recycling, or landfill, depending on the location, we've also introduced some green team initiatives to reduce our plastic waste. So one of our vessels managed to reduce the number of water bottles by 99%, which was a huge achievement. Another vessel has shown a reduction of 430 bottles per month, as well as a decrease in the bottle size, therefore reducing the plastic. And another vessel reduced its bottle consumption by 500,000 a year, which is a huge number, but this was one of the vessels working off the coast of Australia, very, very hot climate. So working out something like 100 bottles per person per week. All the vessels have managed to do this by providing potable water throughout the vessel and giving reusable cups and flasks to the guys on board. So also sticking with waste, as was talked about earlier today, the composting offshore. The Stena Karen, whilst it was working in the UK, changed over to the vegware compostable cups. Over 2 years, they managed to remove 3 tonnes of biodegradable waste from landfill, and this was sent to Keenan's for recycling. Again, some more ideas that came out of last year's EREP forum. We have the introduction of an environmental incentive on board. This is managed through the stop card system. The rig chooses a quarterly environmental stop card, and the winner gets a prize. And then we also do this monthly across the fleet. They've also nominated an EREP champion. This was the lady who was supposed to be here today, as a focal point. So again, this was something that came out of last year's forum that we're trying to push across the fleet. And we're also looking at providing more detailed training for our Green Team members. This is an objective, but it's currently under discussion as to how we're going to do that. One idea is to start with the Resource Efficient Scotland training. They have a video online with the training package that goes along with it. And we're also looking at a company-specific training programme, specific to marine, specific to offshore, to help the Green Team members be more involved in environmental management on board. So this last slide just shows how the rig view their own and the company's environmental responsibility. So their statement was that some people have the mentality that if you're an environmentalist, then you shouldn't work offshore. Now, it's taken years for the rigs to get to where they are in terms of safety performance, and this was only managed driven by the companies and also through legislation. So there must have been the same types of comments said when safety was first introduced back in the day. So we don't see those as valid anymore. The rig feel that they're lucky because they don't have to change people's attitudes as such, they just have to change their behaviour. To achieve this, the companies must support the improvements in processes, help get procedures in place, and help to get everyone involved. It can't be just the Green Team, it's got to come from senior management as well. And this is no matter what the attitudes are on board. And just to finish up, the rig feels that the Stena Drilling and the client, Enquest, senior management are very supportive of the processes on board and continually helping to improve their environmental performance and improve their environmental management system.